Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the MMOA Podcast. My name is Kay Mayerdomo, and I'm part of the MMOA team brought to you by the Institute of Clinical Excellence. Before we get right into the topic of respect, pretty much my reflections of my disagreement with an MD, I'm just going to give you the rundown on some upcoming courses. So in Waterton, Connecticut, we'll be having MMOA Live on July 15th. And on July 29th, we'll be having MMOA Live in Watkinsville, Georgia, and Meridian, Idaho. And on August 5th, we'll be having MMOA Live in Frederick, Maryland. So, first, I'll be telling you the story of when a MD didn't agree with my plan of care, and then we'll go right into my reflections. So, a couple of months ago, I got a call from a doctor who really wanted to talk to me, but I was in between patients, and the front desk was like, "Hey, Kay, like this MD really wants to talk to you. Can you call her back as soon as you can?" And I was like, "Well, okay. Like, I'll definitely call her back after," but they're like, "She made it sound really urgent." So I end up calling her between patients, and is like, she tells me pretty much, "Hey, I can't sign off on the plan of care that you gave this patient because I wanted you to make a home exercise program for this patient with osteoporosis, and your goals didn't necessarily match up with a home exercise program." So, to tell you about my goals, I saw the patient. She was pretty high level. She pretty much had a fracture from I'm just going to move this, from a high impact fall, which another doctor didn't think was from her osteoporosis. But when I was talking to this patient, she tells me that she really wanted to get back to personal training. She was pretty high level. If I did anything, or if I wrote anything less than what was on my goals, I was going to be underdosing her. And in MMA, that's not what we do. We want to make sure we're dosing our patients appropriately and giving them what they need to be able to get back to their goals. So I first asked the MD, "Well, if you don't agree with my goals, what do you think would be more appropriate?" So I wanted to get her perspective first because I just didn't think that's where it was going to go. So she just tells me, "Well, your goals talk about like doing a squat with a certain amount of weight. I can't even fathom that for any of my patients with osteoporosis." And inside, tension just building. And this could have gone one of two ways. Like, I could have either gotten defensive and just caused her to just shut down and not necessarily listen to anything I had to say, or I could ask her for her opinion and just see where she's coming from. And that day, I decided to just, because I can be somewhat of an emotional person, but that day I really just wanted to get her perspective because it honestly sounded like both of us wanted what's best for the patient. It's just our idea of what success for that patient looked like was very, very different. So after we talked for 20 minutes or so about how we can both agree on the plan of care, and I still fought for the idea that, hey, this patient, Like when I assessed her, she was pretty high level. She wants to get back to personal training. So I understand that you want a home exercise program, but I want to make sure that she is ready to see a personal trainer once she's done working with me. And she seemed to agree with that too. Like she thinks that if that's what the patient wanted to do, then that's what we're going to work towards. So I pretty much stated my argument because as physical therapists, we're movement experts. So I was the one who assessed the patient's abilities, and that's why I wrote those goals. But in the end, this ND wouldn't sign off on that plan of care until I changed it a bit. So in the end, I asked this doctor, or I told this doctor, hey, I really appreciate you listening to me. And I know she was very appreciative to pretty much let me hear her point of view as well. And I told her, hey, I would really love to, if we could talk and discuss this further another time, because I really do want to see where you're coming from and make sure that we're on the same page with our patients. And she was definitely very grateful for that. So that was great. And it ended on a pretty good note. So good that after this conversation, like minutes after or so, she sent an email to me to touch base. And she said, thanks for the discussion today. Looking forward to catching up again. And that she was thankful for my thoughtful approach to her patient. So to recap or to go over my reflections for this could have totally gone the other way where she was never going to refer any patients to me again, that I wasn't going to get a thank you email, that she might have talked to the patient and had her not see me. But we came out of it with a better understanding of where the other is coming from, which is awesome. It doesn't always happen. But I think if we as physical therapists want to be able to do what we want to do and move the profession in the way we want to move it and make sure we're loading up our patients and doing our best to serve them, then sometimes we have to have these tough conversations with doctors. And it's definitely not easy, but definitely keeping your cool is important. So, my three reflections from this discussion with the doctor was, make sure, number one, make sure your goals are clear and let them relate back to the functional tasks and the goals that the patient wants to achieve, and make sure it's clear so that the doctor doesn't have any question about why you're writing your goals. So that was on me, that I didn't necessarily refer back to a functional goal that day, and just wrote like patient would be able to deadlift this much or squat this much, pretty much to improve strength, but not necessarily relating it back to functional tasks. So don't forget to make your goals SMART goals, number one. And number two, listen to the MD's point of view. It's easy to let our egos get in the way and say, like, well, I know better. This is what I know and this is my expertise. But there's definitely a better way to say it. And if you first listen to that MD's point of view, you'll get a lot more respect from them than just trying to argue with them and tell them that they're wrong. Because I recognize from that conversation that the MD and I both had the patient's well-being in mind. It's just our ideas didn't match that. So listen to the MD's point of view. I was thinking about this, and we all pretty much got into healthcare to help people, not necessarily to stop people from doing what they want to do. But sometimes our idea of what's helpful just isn't the same. So if we can understand each other better and have some respect for each other, then that's definitely a better way to go so that we can pretty much serve our patients properly and also make sure that we're moving the needle in the right direction. Because I know all of us have gotten frustrated because of certain beliefs from another healthcare provider that don't match up with what we necessarily believe, but not saying anything or talking about it or talking crap behind their back and not necessarily getting their point of view and stating your point of view isn't necessarily going to go anywhere. I know Christina Previtt did a really good post on this that I'll link down in the comments. And yeah, number 3, state your argument. So, as physical therapists, we are movement experts, and this is our bread and butter. If we can get the MD to understand, okay, maybe the PT doesn't just give every patient a home exercise program that she photocopies for every single patient and it's custom, and I can tell that this therapist took these goals or made these goals because she assessed them and knows what the patient's capable of. It's great. So I think to move the needle and have respect for our fellow healthcare providers, we need to have the hard discussions with our fellow healthcare professionals like MDs who refer our Medicare patients to us. Because if we don't have that respect, they're probably going to send them somewhere else. And if those physical therapists might not have the same view, this patient may not get the right amount of help that they need. So, thank you for listening today. If anyone has had this experience before and has had something that they've done that's helped them have a good discussion with an MD, I would really love to hear about it and hear about what has worked for you all. Thank you. Have a good evening. Happy Monday.